Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Powerful Man Show. I am your host, Doug Holt, with my co-host, Tim, the Powerful Man Matthews. What's up, brother?
Yeah, I'm doing well. You?
I'm doing excellent, man. Excellent.
Doing
Got my
well?
morning routine and my nighttime routine dialed in. So
Very good. Very good.
you'll learn about this when you have a baby sometimes and kids. Those things can get thrown in the mix, but uh, feeling
Yeah.
great. Got up at 4:25 this morning and just started rocking it.
Yeah, you've put me off having kids. So
There's a lot of things people don't tell you about having kids, right? All the dads out there know. Right? You know, you're supposed to always say the highlights, but there's some tough times, and obviously a lot of compromise needs to happen.
hmm
But that's not what we're here to talk about today. What I want to talk to you about, Tim, let me ask you a question here. Imagine if you had splitting migraines. Like, I've never had a migraine, but the way people talk about them is the pain, the pressure in their head and their eyes and everything. A lot of people you talk to them like, I almost would rather kill myself than go through that pain, right? And people that have migraines usually have them often. Imagine you had migraines all daily, just splitting pain. And Amelia, your partner, had the cure, but wouldn't give it to you. What would that be like?
what do you think it'd be like?
I
It'd,
know.
it'd be annoying, frustrating. I'd be angry. I'd be even more stressed trying to contain my anger, the anger that I've got towards her. Um, I'd be blaming her. Um, Yeah, I have had migraines before, so I'm thinking about that as well. Um, if she had the cure, then yeah, I'd want it.
You'd want it, and if she wouldn't give it to you, whether she didn't know how to give it to you or it would put distance between you guys, right? It would drive your relationship
Oh
apart,
yeah, obviously. Yeah,
clearly. So this is an analogy that I want to use, and I wrote a little something about this for the guys. But this is the way women often describe their relationships when they get the opportunity, right? Their migraine is the lack of intimacy and communication and authenticity in the relationship. The man's not showing up. It's causing the migraine into them, right? And their husband, their man, has a cure, right? He's got the cure. He can fix and save her, right? But he's not doing it, right? Not because he can't do it, but because he doesn't know how to administer the potion. He doesn't know how to administer the cure.
yeah.
And so the women are going around trying to figure this out. They're begging their men to do this. Now, they don't necessarily know the words to say, right? They're not, solve my migraine, solve my issues with communication or lack of intimacy, but they're doing all the things that you described, right? They're getting angry, they're getting frustrated that the person's not showing up, right? And this is showing up in the bedroom, lack of sex or lack of quality sex. This is showing up in the arguments and the testing and the constant distance to where the point where just like if you had the migraine and Amelia, your partner, had the cure, if you come home and you're like, I'm in so much pain and she's not there to help you, right? Even though she could, you would start distancing yourself. And then if another woman came into your life and said, hey, Tim, gosh, you have a migraine. That's horrible. And just did a little thing to take care of you, got you a glass of water, right? Something simple. You would look at her like, wow, this is what I've needed. This is the savior. And what happens is a lot of these women are having their migraine, which again is the distance that's created in the relationship, the void in the relationship. And then another guy online on Facebook or what have you sends them a little water. Says, oh, I'm so sorry you have a migraine. That's horrible. You really should work on that. And then the distance comes, the emotional affair steps in, the physical affair steps in, or the man knowing that his wife has the migraine, right? The pain in the relationship, knowing that he could cure it, but can't because he doesn't know how, he starts to feel less than, he starts to feel bad, and he steps out because he can't fulfill his role. So we see this happening time and time again. You and I get to talk to men on both sides of this, men who have been frustrated because they don't know how to cure or solve the problems in their relationship without talking about it, don't know how to solve the issues because they've never been taught the proper mechanisms, the hidden motives technique, the live like a king system, and things that we actually teach. They just haven't known that. We also get to the better side of that is talking to the men who've graduated the program and have become like doctors in their relationship and have been able to not only administer the cure, but prevent the migraines from ever happening.
Yeah, they can see it coming on, right?
Oh, they can, yeah,
Before the woman even does.
exactly. And they can see it not only coming on, if we use the migraine analogy, but now they go, oh, well, what causes the migraine is
Yep.
X, Y, and Z. And so now I can remove those causes. As men, we're problem solvers. I mean, that's all we do all day. And so, we know enough to know that in communication with a woman, we don't try to solve her problems. However, once we've identified a methodology and a pattern, and we know that, I'll use the migraine analogy again. If we know the migraine is caused by shellfish and pasta, random examples, we make sure not to allow our wife to have shellfish and pasta. We don't cook shellfish and pasta. We make sure, my wife is gluten intolerant to the point where she gets violently sick, right? She's not celiac, but very close. So I love her. So I've learned to read labels, right? When I go shopping, I look at the labels to make sure she can have it. And there's sometimes I'll buy stuff that she can't have. I'll keep it to myself. Like, the ongoing joke in my house is if I say I love something, I'll be like, there's a ton of gluten in there. You can't, you
Yeah.
can't eat it.
You don't want to go near that.
Yeah. But I learned to do it. We don't cook gluten food for her. We make sure we find alternatives. In fact, I'll go shopping and go, I'd love to have a beer with my wife. I'll go to a specific store that sells gluten-free beer that I know she likes because I care. And it's the same thing in the relationship, right? If your wife's migraine, which is causing the distance and the separation in your relationship, she's going to complain about other things, other symptoms. Like you might complain about the loud noise in the house, which is exaggerating your migraine. It's not the cause of the migraine, but exaggerates it. She might be complaining about other things. You're working too late. You don't pay attention. You don't turn your phone off. These aren't the migraine causers, guys, but these are things that exacerbate the migraine that's already going on. Once you know your wife has a migraine, you have these triggers, just like I do with my wife and gluten intolerance, you start to find ways of being that allow her to thrive and yourself to thrive, right? You find ways to do this. And the problem is, Tim, in my experience, and I'd love to hear, what you think about this analogy, if you think it's applicable, but my experience has been once the men realize they have the cure, and there's a way of fixing the relationship and helping their wife out, right? Helping her be better, so to speak, really comes down to taking care of themselves, right? That is the cure, is working within themselves and on themselves, and that there's a methodology. Most men not only step up, but they step into that in such an amazing way that affects all areas of their life.
Oh, yeah, of course. I mean, this is why the activation method is called the activation method, right? Because it's not about becoming this different guy that you've never been. It's about activating the man that's already there, the guy that your wife sees when she sees that you've got the cure, the man that you know is there as well. Hence the frustration you experience when you are being less than that, right? So the activation method is kind of like the cheat code, right? Like when you're playing the cheat code to get to the migraine and get to the cure really quickly and administer it, because, like I said, that version of you is already there. He already exists. It's kind of like I love that quote by, was it Michelangelo, when he was asked, "How did you sculpt David?" He said, "I just chipped away everything that wasn't him. It was already there." Same thing with the guys we work with, right? And when they're actually in an environment with other men and coaches and given tools and support to actually realize this and call forth this version of them and step into it, then yeah, it does affect every area of their life. Everything becomes easier, right? Because they are able to wake up and go into work with clarity and with lightness because they've just just woken up from a great evening, sleeping in bed next to their wife with a woman they love, actually being close with her legs wrapped around them and, with her arm even around the guy and just feeling that closeness and connection, taking that into the office and then how they communicate with the staff is just more effective. It's more efficient. Their ideas are better. Their creativity flows. They're more decisive. They get more energy. They finish work on time because they're excited to go home. And I know it might sound like a bit of a fallacy, but it's the truth. I mean, the Facebook group, if you go in there and look into the units section, um, under case studies, you'll see there's like 20 odd guys there, and that's a tiny fraction of the guys that have experienced this. So, point being, it's there. It's available for every guy. The great thing about this is there are a lot of women out there with a migraine. Some of them don't know they've got a migraine. Some of them become so used to the migraine that they just learn to live with the migraine and then become a bit of a shell of themselves. I mean, imagine when I've had a migraine in the past, all I want to do is turn the lights out and go to sleep and lay with my head in my arms, quite frankly, because there is pain there. And just imagine learning to live with that. I'd be a shell of who I am. That's the same with the women. They learn to live with it and become a shell of what they are capable of being. And that continues to exasperate in the relationship. And I think this is why Divorce Day, right? We spoke about Divorce Day on one of the previous podcasts. It's coming up the beginning of January this year. It's the first Monday back after the holiday season. And 80% of the requests for divorces that solicitors and attorneys and lawyers get in the UK and the US, because it's the same for both. 80% of those requests come from women because a lot of them just get fed up of living with this migraine. At which point, usually the guys wake up and realize that, hang on a minute, I can do this, but you don't have to let it get that far. It's very difficult to pull it back from that point. It's easier to just look at the warning signs. Hang on a minute, she may have got used to living with a migraine, but this isn't the woman I married. This isn't what it was like early on. And I thought it was just because we've had kids. I thought it was just because I've been working. That's why. Well, maybe ask her. We spoke about on the last podcast, check in, right? Checking in with your partner. Ask her, check in with her, see how she is doing, see how bad this migraine really is. And then, my advice to you would be to accept the challenge of becoming the man you know you're capable of being, because it's not as hard as you think. It's going to fumble your way through it in the beginning, and it can be scary at times. And then once you do it, you realize, wow, that wasn't as tough or as bad as I was making it out to be in my mind. It's like anything, right? Once you get going, it's much easier. So there you go.
Well, it's so true, right? And, when you think about it, and I look back at my relationship with my wife, the frustration and the problems that we had weren't the problems themselves. It was I didn't know how to fix it. There wasn't a methodology like the activation method back then. It just didn't exist. And so it's that scramble of trying to fix it. And eventually you throw your hands up and you're like, screw it. Right? There's nothing I can do. I'm trying everything I can and it's not working. Right? That's all the guys say. I'm trying everything I friggin' can and it's not working. And you get frustrated. Look, I left. I started looking elsewhere. You start having your backup plans, all of these things, financial backup plans, girl backup plans, all of these things laid out, right? Because you're a strategist, you're a business leader. And so you have these things kind of in the wings. And my wife did too. We talk about it openly now and laugh about it. But it wasn't like I had this great strategy and plan if things didn't work out that I was leaving and because I knew they weren't working. She did too. We're both trying to figure out, but we're both frustrated because she had the migraine. She knew I had the cure for her migraine, but wouldn't give it to her. And I just didn't know how to administer it. And that was the crazy part. And I didn't know I had the cure either, at the time. And I figured it out and I was like, oh crap, now I get to figure out how to administer this. How do we do it going through? And that's what brought us closer, and which part of these things have been added to the activation method, as you said, and into the Brotherhood, which is our advanced mastermind group going through. But the key here, guys, is realizing that if your wife is distant, if she's testing you, if she's not looking at you with admiration like she used to, she's not looking you in the eyes like she used to, like when you married her, right? She doesn't seem to respect you or have your back, right? As much as she used to, right? It's because she has a migraine and she knows you have the cure, right? Or at least she suspects you do. And
She
she's
knows
wondering,
you do.
Yeah. Why won't he step up and help me? Why won't he step up the way like he can? And then she's going to test you all the time. The testing never ends, right? The testing
Migraine
never
never
ends.
fully goes away.
But it's like going to the doctor, right? You go into a doctor who's been practicing medicine for a long time, and he's like, "Yeah, I've seen this symptom 10,000 times. I know exactly what it is. It's, you have allergies, right? It's hay fever season. You have allergies. You have all the symptoms, and he knows that almost when you walk in the room, right? But he still does a little bit of analysis to make sure, but he knows, and he's right because he's seen it, and he's got a methodology for the cure. It's the same thing when we look at the hidden motives technique. We look at the live like a king system. We look at the clean slate method, the activation method. I can go on and on. It's realizing you have these tools in your tool belt, and then you can apply them. And until you have them, you're just walking around with like a cure in your pocket that you just don't know how to give. And there's nothing more frustrating than that.
Yeah. And every guy that we speak to, right, we ask them, well, they talk to us about the migraine. They talk to us about the disconnect. You say, well, I'm guessing it must have been good at one time. Say, oh, yeah. And they start to reel off these memories of how great it was. Point being is she knew then that you had the cure. You've given the cure before, so
Yep.
she knows you've got it. But you just, you've teased it before by giving it, right? So you can imagine the frustration. It's understandable from both sides, right? So the guy not knowing he's realizing he's got it. Her just been like, give it to me.
It's a crazy thought. I mean, like you said, with your migraines, if Amelia wasn't giving it to you, it would just drive a wedge in your relationship and which would build and deteriorate. So guys, the point of all this is just recognizing that you are the doctor. You are the physician. We're in the middle of COVID, right? As we're recording this, imagine you had the cure and people around you were getting sick and dying and you're just not delivering it, right? That you would never do that. So this is very similar, and it all starts with working on yourself, right? For some of you, it's going to be the activation method, which I invite you. If you're a business leader, we only work with businessmen right now. There's reasons for that, which I'm happy to explain. But and even if you're not, start by studying, start by filling your cup, start with the 5 territories, right? If you don't know what those are, we explain them in detail in different podcasts. It's all free, right? As well as the 5 agonies. You need to know what those are and understand them, right? Self, health, wealth, relationships, business, right? Where are you not administering the cure in these areas? Extremely important, guys. So make sure you, first of all, recognize this. If you see it in yourself, now it's time to take action, right? If you don't do it, get a counselor, get a book, do those things. If you don't do the activation method, I'm biased, but I'm also honestly telling you it's the best system I've ever experienced for this situation. If you find yourself in this situation where you're in a relationship where your partner has the migraine and you want to administer the cure. Guys, that's all for us today. As always, take action, right? Don't just listen to this and go on to the next podcast or the next show or whatever you're doing. Take massive action. This is your life. This is your one shot. Until next time, gentlemen, we'll see you on the Powerful Man Show.